Gerald appears and Edna withdraws.
I hope you don't mind my coming back.
No, of course not, Gerald.
I had a special reason for coming. When did that inspector go?
Only a few minutes ago. He put us all through it.
Sheila?
Gerald might as well know.
Now, we needn't bother him with all that stuff.
All right. But we're all in it, up to the neck. It got worse after you left.
How did he behave?
He was frightening.
If you ask me, he behaved in a very peculiar and suspicious manner.
The rude way he spoke to Mr. Burling and me, it was quite extraordinary.
They all look inquiringly at Gerald.
You know something. What is it?
That man wasn't a police officer.
What?
Are you certain?
I'm almost certain. That's what I came back to tell you.
Oh, good lad. You asked about him, eh?
Yes, I met a police sergeant I know down the road. I asked him about this Inspector Gould and described the chap carefully to him. He swore there wasn't any Inspector Gould or anybody like him on the force here.
You didn't tell him?
No. I passed it off by saying I'd been having an argument with somebody. But the point is, this sergeant was dead certain that they hadn't any inspector at all, like the chap who came here.
Oh, by jingo, a fake.
Didn't I tell you? Didn't I say I couldn't imagine a real police inspector talking like that to us?
Well, you were right. There isn't any such inspector. We've been had.
I'm going to make certain of this.
What are you going to do?
Ring up the Chief Constable, Colonel Roberts.
Careful what you say, dear.
Oh, of course. Bromley, 8752. I was going to do this anyhow. I've had my suspicions all along. Colonel Roberts, please. Mr. Arthur Burling here. Oh, Roberts, Burling here. Sorry to ring you up so late, but can you tell me if an Inspector Gould has joined your staff lately? Gould. Goole. A new man. Tall, clean-shaven. Yeah. I see. Yes. Well, that settles it. No, just a little argument we were having here. Yes, good night. There's no Inspector Gould on the police. That man definitely wasn't an inspector at all. As Gerald says, we've been had.
I felt it all the time. He never talked like one. He never even looked like one.
This makes a difference, you know. In fact, it makes all the difference.
Of course.
I suppose we're all nice people now.
If you've nothing more sensible than that to say, Sheila, you'd better keep quiet.
She's right, though.
And you'd better keep quiet anyhow. If that had been a police inspector and he'd heard you confess.
Arthur, careful.
Yes.
You see, Gerald, you haven't to know the rest of our crimes and idiocies.
That's all right. I don't want to. What do you make of this business now? Was it a hoax?
Of course. There was somebody who put that fellow up to coming here and hoaxing us. There are people in this town who dislike me enough to do that. We ought to have seen through it from the very first. In the ordinary way, I believe I would have done. But coming like that, bang on top of our little celebration, just when we were all feeling so pleased with ourselves, naturally, it took me by surprise.
I wished I'd been here when that man first arrived. I'd have asked him a few questions before I'd allowed him to ask us any.
It's all right saying that now.
I was the only one of you who didn't give in to him, and now I say we must discuss this business quietly and sensibly and decide if there's anything to be done about it.
You're absolutely right, my dear. Already, we've discovered one important fact, that fellow was a fraud and we've been hoaxed. And that may not be the end of it by any means.
I'm sure it isn't.
Oh, you are, eh? Good. Eric, sit down.
I'm all right.
All right. You're anything but all right, and you needn't stand there as if
As if what?
as if you'd nothing to do with us. Just remember your own position, young man. If anybody's up to the neck in this business, you are. So you'd better take some interest in it.
I do take some interest in it. I take too much. That's my trouble.
It's mine too.
Now listen, you two. If you're still feeling on edge, then the least you can do is to keep quiet. Leave this to us. I'll admit that fellow's antics rattled us a bit, but we found him out. And all we have to do is to keep our heads. Now it's our turn.
Our turn to do what?
To behave sensibly, Sheila, which is more than you're doing.
What's the use of talking about behaving sensibly? You're beginning to pretend now that nothing's really happened at all. And I can't see it like that. This girl's still dead, isn't she? Nobody's brought her to life, have they?
That's just what I feel, Eric, and it's what they don't seem to understand.
Whoever that chap was, the fact remains that I did what I did, and Mother did what she did, and the rest of you did what you did to her. It's still the same rotten story, whether it's been told to a police inspector or to somebody else. According to you, I ought to feel a lot better. I stole some money. Gerald, you might as well know. I don't care. Let him know. The money's not the important thing. It's what happened to the girl and what we all did to her that matters. And I still feel the same about it. And that's why I don't feel like sitting down and having a nice, cosy talk.
And Eric's absolutely right. And it's the best thing any one of us has said tonight. And it makes me feel a bit less ashamed of us. You're just beginning to pretend all over again.
Look, for God's sake!
Arthur.
Well, my dear, they're so damned exasperating. They just won't try to understand our position or to see the difference between a lot of stuff like this coming out in private and a downright public scandal.
And I say the girl's dead and we all helped to kill her. And that's what matters.
And I say either stop shouting or get out. Some fathers I know would have kicked you out of the house anyhow by this time, so hold your tongue if you want to stay here.
I don't give a damn now whether I stay here or not.
Oh, you'll stay here long enough to give me an account of that money you stole. Yes, and to pay it back too.
But that won't bring Eva Smith back to life, will it?
And it doesn't alter the fact that we all helped to kill her.
But is it a fact?
Of course it is. You don't know the whole story yet.
I suppose you're going to prove now you didn't spend last summer keeping this girl instead of seeing me, eh?
I did keep a girl last summer. I've admitted it. And I'm sorry, Sheila.
Well, I must admit you came out of it better than the rest of us. The inspector said that.
He wasn't an inspector.
Well, he inspected us all right. And don't let's start dodging and pretending now. Between us, we drove that girl to commit suicide.
Did we? Who says so? Because I say there's no more real evidence we did than there was that chap was a police inspector.
Of course there is.
No, there isn't. Look at it. A man comes here pretending to be a police officer. It's a hoax of some kind. Now what does he do? Very artfully, working on bits of information he's picked up here and there, he bluffs us into confessing that we've all been mixed up in this girl's life in one way or another.
And so we have.
But how do you know it's the same girl?
Now, wait a minute. Let's see how that would work. Now, oh no, it wouldn't.
You all admitted it.
All right, you all admitted something to do with the girl. But how do you know it's the same girl?
He looks round triumphantly at them. As they puzzle this out, he turns to Burling after a pause.
Look here, Mr. Burling. You sack a girl called Eva Smith. You've forgotten, but he shows you a photograph of her and then you remember, right?
Yes, that part's straightforward enough, but what then?
Well, then he happens to know that Sheila once had a girl sacked from Millwood shop. He tells us that it's the same Eva Smith, and he shows her a photograph that she recognises.
Yes, the same photograph.
How do you know that it was the same photograph? Did you see the one your father looked at?
No, I didn't.
And did your father see the one he showed you?
No, he didn't. And I see what you mean now.
We've no proof it was the same photograph, and therefore no proof it was the same girl. Now take me. I never saw a photograph, remember? He caught me out suddenly announcing that this girl changed her name to Daisy Renton. I gave myself away at once because I'd known a Daisy Renton.
And there wasn't the slightest proof that this Daisy Renton was really Eva Smith. We've only his word for it, and we'd his word for it that he was a police inspector, and we know now he was lying, so he could have been lying all the time.
Of course he could. He probably was. Now what happened after I left?
I was upset because Eric had left the house, and this man said that if Eric didn't come back, he'd have to go and find him. Well, that made me feel worse still, and his manner was so severe and he seemed so confident. Then quite suddenly he said I'd seen Eva Smith only 2 weeks ago.
Those were his exact words.
And like a fool, I said yes, I had.
I don't see now why you did that. She didn't call herself Eva Smith when she came to see you at the committee, did she?
No, of course she didn't. But feeling so worried when he suddenly turned on me with those questions I answered more or less as he wanted me to answer.
But, Mother, don't forget that he showed you a photograph of the girl before that, and you obviously recognised it.
Did anyone else see it?
No, he only showed it to me.
Then don't you see? There's still no proof it was really the same girl. He might have shown me the photograph of any girl who applied to the committee. And how do we know she was really Eva Smith or Daisy Renton?